Hi, my name is Jamie Lynch, and you are listening to Eating Habits, my podcast about everything restaurants. I will explore the human element of the hospitality business, and I'll talk to the who's who in restaurants, explore their stories, and hear what's on their minds in the ever-changing landscape of the food and beverage industry.
Hello, this is Hank Hill, and you're listening to Eating Habits, sponsored by Propane.
Nice, well done. You're actually listening to Jesse Leadbetter. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing it. I want to talk to you a little bit about Fresh List. Obviously, that's probably the thing that most relates to what I'm trying to do with Eating Habits. The idea here is I want to have a platform to connect people with where their food comes from, the people doing it, the personalities behind it, the inspiration behind it, and all that kind of stuff. And I think you guys are doing something really cool. So let's talk about that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I've been a fan of the podcast, as I was mentioning to you. I haven't had as much time to get out and meet with people and that, over the past couple of years, some stuff happened. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, I've come to realize that the reasons that chefs buy from us and that people appreciate what we do is not because of what we have. We do have incredible products, but it's more the why, why we're doing that. And because I know the stories of these farmers, even ones like Sammy that we were just talking about, Sammy from Newtown, who don't work with us, that's okay. I'll promote people like him all day long because we're all trying to build this thing together and fix a system that was broken, still is broken. So,
Sammy mentioned the same kind of sentiment at the end of an interview I just did with him. He was talking about how Fresh List is a part of the solution. We were generally talking about, we can talk about this a little bit if you want, but we were just talking about kind of this disconnect of society to their food source and that being kind of one of the missions that he's on as a farmer was connecting community with food, and healthy, nutritious food was the big thing. But Fresh List is kind of a different sort of beast. How would you describe what Fresh List is to people that maybe don't understand how restaurants get their food?
Yeah, I mean, the industry term, we're a food hub. We work with small and mid-sized family farms, work directly with them, as well as a couple of food hubs that share values with us in the region. But the idea is that we're working with those farmers and saying, what do you have? What do you need to sell? And then we find markets for that. Predominantly restaurants. That's still, 90% of our business here in Charlotte. We have probably 400 chefs that get our list via text or email. Not just chefs, brewers, bakers, distillers. Muddy River just got some basil from us. They get basil, maybe once a month or every other month. That's fine. I'm not expecting them to buy. We try to be as accessible, and we know that, again, we're all trying to just change the course of that ship in a little bit better direction over time. We started off in 2014 just naive people, me and my business partners, we all went to high school together thinking we were going to build technology to connect farmers and chefs because we didn't want to be a middleman. We thought that middleman piece it got in the way of that relationship. And that's true for a lot of people. But we started to get to know farmers, and, we'd see, like Mindy Robinson, delivering to 45, 50 restaurants, or having to pay someone to do that. And, the farmers need to be, they want to be in the fields. This Brent Barbie, one time I was talking to him about it, and he was like, I want to be a shadow in the field. Like that's where my place is. I need to be there. And so every moment they're either, out doing a sales call or trying to collect payment or delivering is time they're not doing that.
The weeds keep growing.
Yeah.
Well, they're not in the field. We were just talking about that.
Yeah. They don't stop growing. But now I remember Sammy, whenever I was, early days, I wasn't completely naive in thinking that I had all the answers. I was really trying to get to know the people in the community that were already doing this work. And I remember going and talking to Sammy and meeting with them at the Matthews Market, and then going out to the farm. And I was reading some Wendell Berry at the time, which T. McLeod, who used to run the Bradford store up in Davidson, he was the one who kind of turned me on to Wendell Berry. And I was talking to Sammy about it, and Sammy goes, You ever read that essay about Wendell Berry where he says it's called like The Reasons I'll Never Own a Computer? And I was like, no, I haven't. But, it's again, I've learned that you don't want people just to pat you on the back and say, oh, this is a great idea. Like you need people to be real with you. And the quicker you can get to that, I think the better off you'll be. So, yeah, I mean, I think early on for us just to survive, we had to kind of, create the infrastructure to generate revenue, get enough volume, get enough farmers working with us, get enough chefs buying from us, getting this critical mass that was so difficult to get. You guys were a part of that, and we haven't stopped delivering to you all since then. Yep. It's funny, the restaurant industry, this, like for a chef to be at a restaurant longer than 6 months is like, you get a service award. Yeah. And that kind of scared me from a, customer standpoint, like, oh, we're going to lose this customer in 6 months, but we don't. They take us to the new restaurant they go to, and then whoever fills their position usually ends up using us.
Carries on the relationship.
Yeah.
That's great. What changed the direction of your initial idea from going into this software kind of connectivity thing to the actual food hub where you guys are handling the product?
Yeah. So 2016, we had, spent a couple years. We also just moved very slowly in those early days, trying to just do a lot of research and working in spreadsheets and theoreticals. We built this platform where chefs could buy directly from farmers, farmers listed stuff. And we launched that in 2016, in July of 2016. And we had a few people using it. There were a couple of restaurants that bought some things, and immediately the wheels kind of started falling off. Like
chefs are not as technologically advanced as and neither are farmers.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to link two groups of people that just resist technology for some reason.
Yeah. And it's such a painful point where, how US Foods can make food feel so like we've got it whenever you need it. Now, I don't know, that's probably not the case right now, but in the real world with farms, like you're going to have the farmer's going to think they have something, and then, bugs ate all of my peaches or whatever it may be. And that we realized that pretty quickly. And it was like all the stuff we had worked for, we realized like, this isn't going to work. And then the very next day I got a call that my mom had committed suicide.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And yeah, completely, from being on the top of the world thinking, oh my gosh, we finally launched this, it's going to work, to pretty much the lowest point. All that momentum, I had to basically go back home to St. Louis for a couple of weeks and kind of, tidy up affairs. Maybe luckily, I should say this, she didn't have there's no estate, there's no assets to be distributed, but family, just kind of going around and being there for my aunts and uncle and cousins. And that really took the steam out of everything. And then when I got back to Charlotte a couple weeks later, I'm sitting in, I was working from home before it was cool, just sitting in my home office in dead silence and just with my thoughts. And I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, I have nothing to show for it. I've put all my own personal savings into this. And I did the one thing that I knew would feel right. I went out to T. McLeod's spot. I needed some more chicken feed. And I got to his farm and pick up some chicken feed. And he told me, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he just has this like very just, when he talks, people listen. He just has a very like powerful voice, and he always has wise words. But we talked, he knew what happened with my mom, and we're talking, and he, as I'm getting ready to leave, he goes, I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to think it sounds weird, but I had a dream about you last night. And I was like, okay, that's the first time I've heard that. But he said, I had this dream that you were standing in this field and there are storms all around you. And he's like, when storms are happening, that they're like putting all this nitrogen into the atmosphere, and the plants, everything's just like taking that and pulling it and feeding their roots and making their roots stronger. And I saw where he was going with it. I don't know if he actually legitimately had that dream or if he just felt like he needed to tell me that in a way of, this is a very difficult storm, but you can take things from that and become stronger. And so I left that farm and I went to Brent's, and I just went back and started talking to farmers again. And I was like, I think we got it wrong. What do you need? Let's try to revisit this. And ultimately started doing deliveries for Mark and Mindy down at Tika Hill's farm. Talk about Mark a little bit later on. He just passed. But I didn't know what I was doing. We bought a van and out of Texas. Brad drove it up in a tropical storm overnight, and I would deliver all of her stuff, and I would execute it. I would, just buttoned up, but I started meeting chefs, and not just meeting them in the sense of like, hey, can I get 5 minutes of your time to have coffee kind of thing, but like seeing them in the kitchen and just understanding a little bit of that culture. When we started doing that, I was like, I'm not ready to give up. We're going to just go wherever we need, help whoever we can, and just kind of see where it goes from there. So that's really.
Is that kind of how the idea to start working with multiple farms, bring it to the chefs, like that interaction in the kitchen, seeing, I mean, chefs are busy,
yeah,
and I was talking with Sammy about this. One thing that this hub model does is it changes the dynamic of the relationship with the people with the farmer, yeah. Right? Because you don't have to, the farmer doesn't have to come to the kitchen to drop off the food. But what it does do is adds an element of convenience to chefs where, we're like farmers. We're at the stove or in the kitchen and, preparing and working hard at getting the dishes together. So having the stuff available and not have to leave the kitchen or spend 30 minutes in the office digging through 12 pages of fresh list. We actually can pull it up on our phone. We can look what's available, get on a call or a text, and receive our stuff the next day. It's pretty magical. Yeah. So is that kind of how that came together?
Yeah, it is. I was delivering for Mindy, and Mindy mainly did lettuces, micros. I would start asking. I knew what some other farmers that were not working with me directly yet, but I knew stuff they had. And so I'd ask the chefs, like, is there anything else you're looking for? And so I started putting together my own list. Again, nothing I didn't compete with Mindy in any of that, but would just email a PDF, old school, even though we built this fancy platform, we're not using that. We're just like, here's a PDF of what we have. I emailed it to like Matt Martin, because he was at Fern at the time, Tom Marlowe, Chef Alyssa. There's just a handful of people, and I'm just like, if you want anything, let me know. And then they'd email back and I'll take this. And then, they'll add on something. And it really, I think, again, going back to it's not necessarily the what you have to offer that people are going to get excited about. It's why you're doing this. And once they knew I was legit and I was going to be there, I did a lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff and still do every now and then that doesn't make us money. Mm-hmm. But it's because we're trying to legitimately help, chefs just as much. I used to think it was just going to be about helping the farmers. But we've learned that, farmers like Mindy, and I say this because just coming back from her husband's funeral service on Sunday, I got there, helped out with food, had some chefs that did some food for her, and I was trying to find her so I could say hello before I left, and I'm looking for her, and at her husband's service, she's holding the door for people. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is why,
Yep.
And I realized that it's, chefs are the same way. Like, There's no other reason, right? It's not because, it's an easy job and we get paid super, ridiculous money and all these benefits. That's not, we need to get, to those point, or to that point in the industry, but it's really about people that are like, I'm here to serve, and I'm gonna keep doing that. And
yeah, the hospitality industry is a lot denser than I think people think, right? They think of hospitality and they think of hotels and restaurants. Mm-hmm. They don't always consider the farmers or the food hubs or, all the different people in between that make this stuff go. Yeah. And most of the people doing it, at least the people that are in leadership doing it, or the farmers, are doing it to take care of others.
Yeah.
It really is a selfless thing, that they get this kind of satisfaction from,
Yeah. I got a hot take for you.
You hit me.
Greg Collier is not the best black chef in Charlotte. Greg Collier is the best chef in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think I've learned that it's not just about the food, because the food can be good, but you could have used crap ingredients or not cared where those came from. Mm-hmm. It's also not just about the ingredients, because that's a given. Now you should be doing some sort of, local sourcing and trying to figure that out. But it's all the other stuff that he does that you guys are doing, like to try to take care of your people. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, it's hard. it's incredibly difficult. You almost have to open more restaurants because you got to just, again, anytime you're trying to fix something that's broken, you're signing up for a life of being able to, those of us who are trying to fix the restaurant industry or food systems or, affordable housing, if that's what you're spending your time doing, you have to get comfortable with the fact that you're not going to do it in your lifetime.
100%.
And so success has to be measured some other way, and you got to figure that out. And I think he's someone who, I remember dropping stuff off to him at the Yolk back in the day. I didn't really know him. Just seeing him grow over the years and could not be happier for him.
Yeah, so. He's doing great, man. And congrats to them. They just had their baby girl.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Greg. He's a super positive dude with a ton of energy. I mean, he's definitely one of those forces that is going to make major moves over the course of his career. I mean, he's already been doing it, and he's still young enough that he's got a long way to go. Yeah. He's got a lot of energy still to contribute. So that's
well, this is a question I have for you too, because I know there's similar, like, at what point, because I feel like you're young, I'm young, like there's so much more I want to accomplish and go, but like for you, where do you feel like, do you see an end game, or is it like, I just need to open up these 2 more restaurants, or I'm just going to keep doing this as long as I enjoy it? And
my experience has been that it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And, my life dream was always just to have my own place.
Yeah.
Like that was my goal.
Yeah.
Just like, how do I have my own restaurant so I can, express myself through my craft or whatever. And so we did that over a decade ago at Five Church, and it was a huge success and all that. So like, my goals had to change. I was like, all right, well, what's next? Okay. Like I fulfilled that. So what is this all about? And now, much later in my career, it isn't about my craft anymore. Right. It's about things you touched on a second ago. It's about the food industry. It's about the health of the restaurants. It's about food systems. It's about educating the public. Like a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do, is our customers, our guests need to get it. Yeah. Like we could be doing all this work for nothing if people don't hang on to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you mentioned about during the Greg comment is we have so much talent in our group right now that I almost have to open places for them to succeed.
Yeah.
These people are only going to stay under you and work with you for so long, and they reach a point where they're the next level of leadership. And unless you have a place for them to grow into that, you lose them to somewhere else. So that's a lot of where I think my focus is now, is like, how do I keep growing at a steady pace, where I can still be relevant, right? By being leadership for these young chefs that are coming up. And then, still be involved. Yeah.
That's something, I mentioned, early in the process, it was the farmers, like, these are the people we're doing this for. And then also like start to know chefs. But then as our team grew, I mean, we've got still a relatively small team right now, but Aaron coming on and helped me with those deliveries in the early days. And then Gigi, second person coming on, and I didn't know what I was doing, as a manager. Even though I managed in corporate, I was managing in a structure that was just handed down to me, and it was super simple.
Right.
There was just no playbook. I'm sure there were books that could have told me some of the things I needed to know, but I also didn't trust the people that were writing the books. And I've had that since I was a kid, where I was like, I don't believe you, I'm going to find out for myself. But as as we've grown the company, Chef Matt, when he came on, it was great just having someone who had that level of experience in the kitchen start to see how things work from the farm side. But this team came together, and the 4 of us just got it over the hump, so to speak. I hope that's, you're always trying to figure out, are we over the hump?
Yeah. Is this another hump that we're...
Yeah. But like giving them, making them equity owners in the company, which is something we did recently. Like those things, just, even though it's just something on paper right now, that those are the little things of success for me, where I'm like, we're building something where people can find meaning.
Yep.
I don't want any of them to leave. We're still a company where there's a lot of stuff. We're getting back into the technology side. We've got these relationships with hubs up and down the East Coast. We want to do more. So there's plenty of opportunity here, but I know that there'll come a time where one of them is going to want to go and do something different, and that's fine. But as long as they're here, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that, we're trying to take care of them.
Yeah.
So.
Tell me a little bit more about the growing process of Freshless. So you guys have been open for, has it been 5 years?
Oh man. Yeah. So officially like formed the company in 2014 when it was just technology. We didn't start doing deliveries and with the van and stuff until 2017, operating out of Lenny Boy.
Okay.
Towns at Lenny Boy had a little bit of walk-in cooler space,
Yeah,
like
remember
two
that.
racks worth and one van. And then we did that for a couple, probably year and a half, 2 years. And then we're at some temporary space over in Noda, like a warehouse that's like the new art theater now. Really just like scraping, but just trying to get this critical mass of revenue. Like we wanted to be profitable. We didn't want to be, there's a lot of people in the food hub space that are nonprofits and basically living like for the next grant. And I think grants are an important part of subsidizing this effort to try to fix something that's broken. But I was very worried about building this business that farmers came to rely upon, and then it fell apart because we couldn't manage we couldn't manage things. And so there were a couple of times in 2019 where you're waking up in the morning and the first thing you do is check the bank account. Did payroll clear? Wasn't paying myself for a long time. Ask that, why am I doing this? I need to go out to the farms and gotta get that reminder. And then we decided to raise some money from investors again in 2020, January of 2020. We were trying to raise $300,000 to move into our new facility, build out walk-in cooler, and finally have our own space. We had half of that in the bank whenever that Wednesday, March
25th,
yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was earlier in the month.
It was enough. I was down at a food hub conference in New Orleans that week, and Jeff and Jamie from Supperland, they'd been customers of ours for a long time, and I met Jeff, and Jeff believed enough in what we're doing where he's like, I want to support you all. And he was the last person that invested in the world shutdown. I was so scared because they were working on Supperland. I was like, he's going to call me and ask for his money back. I just know it. He didn't. And we, at that point, we probably should have finished trying to raise the money, but there were only, 5 of us, and I don't have time to go out and fundraise. I had to get to work. I mean, so we just put our heads down and powered through it. We got some grant type funding. It's basically funding to build food boxes where we're getting money. I think it was Blue Cross Blue Shield was donated money to Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, and they had a program called Farm Shares where we would buy stuff from our farmers, put it in boxes, and deliver it to hospitality workers. And that program is still going on to a different degree now, but that probably saved us Chef Scott Craig at Myers Park and Charles Gardner at Longview. The country clubs, their members need to spend money at the club, but when the restaurants shut down, they're like, hey, can they buy food from you? And we're like, yes. So those things probably help save us. Yeah. And then just the restaurants, you guys, I mean, there are restaurants that they stopped buying for a little bit,
sure,
but they would start to come back on. And that's where, the cool thing about the team we have is that they share that people pleasing hospitality service. Aaron would be on the phone with, Paul Verica or other people are just trying to what's working? Are people doing takeout? Are they doing grocery stuff? And really just trying to figure out how to get everybody through it, because we needed, the restaurants that were hit the hardest were the ones that we needed and our farmers needed to survive.
Yeah. I mean, those are the ones that use a hub like that, right? The smaller restaurants that are reliant on the community and stuff like that. It's a small, I don't think a lot of people understood either that during this whole shutdown, the monster conglomerate restaurant groups that have 350 stores or 1,000 stores across the country were not hit as hard as the small restaurant groups or single, chef operated stores that have 60 seats and rely on a paycheck to, and those are the stores, I think, or the restaurants that really were buying or supporting you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It scared the heck out of us. I mean, that's why we leaned heavily into home delivery, because at the time, back when people would go to the grocery store and shelves were wiped out. And so we're like, all right, we've kind of experimented with this a little bit before. So we're a small enough company and pretty adaptive. So we're like, all right, now we're doing home delivery. And we still do that to a degree. Now it's just about making sure that we're diversifying, kind of mitigating some risk if one thing shuts down. but also like doing just everything we do, we ask this pretty simple question, like, is it good for the farmer? And there are farms that we work with that are on a smaller scale that can't really do restaurant volume, but they can do, 10 bundles of this for home delivery.
Right.
And so, we're really trying to just be adaptive and try to do whatever we have to do to solve the problem. But the next phase of us, now that, the goal is to get the Charlotte hub, make sure it's set up and we're not having to worry about survival, which is...
Are you still in survival mode?
No, not right now, but
like...
I say that like you only really look 3 months out whenever answering that question, I feel like, because you don't know what's going to happen around the corner.
We all learned not to plan too far ahead.
Yeah. And so I think, it's just like, all right, and again, we also can't just put the gas pedal down. Like we only have so many local farmers.
Yep.
We want to have more farmers and be able to accommodate more farmers, but to do that, you need demand to exceed what you already have. We get probably, I don't know, at least an email or a call a week, someone saying, hey, I'm growing microgreens. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but can you help me? And we're like, no, we can't right now because you already have these farms that are doing those microgreens. Right. That seems like low hanging fruit for people trying to get into farming.
Right.
And it's just, it's tough because we used to just tell them, we'll let you know, but now we kind of feel the need to explain to them a little bit, like,
right.
Don't do, if you haven't already bought all this equipment, like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't get into microgreen farming. I can tell you what you can grow or should grow. Right. So now it's the connecting of, helping farmers have more information about what chefs want. We wanted some cool stuff we want to do there on the technology side and that's the long game with technology here was realizing that we had to figure out how we could use technology to improve the relationship between chef and farmer, not replace it.
Yep.
And, being able to give you access to, what farmers could grow in this area, kind of like, those Baker Creek seed catalogs, like the cool stuff. I mean, you farmed, that's the fun part, picking that out, but giving chefs access to that and then taking that information and then sharing it with farmers. Like, people actually don't want shishitos anymore. They want this other pepper and trying to have them make better planting decisions because, when you're throwing seeds in the ground, you're taking a guess about what, at least the farmers have been doing it for a long time, have last year's data to go off of. And here's what I can sell and here's what I think will buy it. But
I think that's one of the things that's so important about Sammy's relationship to his customers, the chefs that he sells to or the market is that, I mean, he's very hands-on. He knows the people that are buying his products and they're, by way of that knows what they want, and they tell him, hey, we don't want romaine lettuce anymore. Right? And he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to do this cool new lettuce from wherever. Yeah. And that's great. And I think that connectivity is important to make sure there's enough, or like you said, right? Everybody will have there's only so many mustard micros that you can put on a salad or whatever, right?
The cool thing too, I think it's not, by helping farmers plant more of what, the market wants, you start to get more biodiversity and like all this for me, walking through the little garden out back, like just talking about how just having that realization about the importance of the way that things are farmed and the health of the land and the soil, that's a hard thing to do on a large scale level with these big farms, much less the small family farms, too, that we work with. But if you can take some of the risk out of it for them and let them feel confident in planting some different stuff, then you drive this biodiversity. And so it's like the long way around to get that ultimate goal. So.
How important is that to the overall ethos of what you're doing?
It's important as a long-term thing. I'm not going to go I had that realization with a farmer that we work with who they're like, diversified, really farming the right way. And I think they kind of gave me a little bit of flack for working with a conventional farmer that we work with. And at first I was like, I didn't really know what to say, but then I was like, if I only worked with the farmers that were farming the exact way that I think farming should be done, we'd have a list of, a handful of farms and we wouldn't be able to serve chefs like we want to. And I think for us, it's like, you've got to make a little bit of sacrifice in terms of how long it's going to take you to get to this end goal. Because from the chef side, again, like you guys, yes, you want to buy organic stuff, but you also got food you got to get out, and cost.
And I think another important part of this equation is, restaurants like Church and Union. I mean, we are a juggernaut, right? I mean, we do massive volume. If I need potatoes, I need like 600 pounds, not a 25-pound bag or a 5-pound bag. Yeah. Right. And so where are the lines, right? I mean, that's the thing. That's the balance I think that we all need or try to look at. Mm-hmm. Where do you have lines? Do you have hard lines in the sand where you're like, okay, this is a farm that will work with from a conventional standpoint versus on an organic standpoint or growing techniques? Do you guys have a strict kind of?
Yeah. I mean, the rubric we run it through is as local as possible, as long as it meets our standards. Now, that's not to say we're not carrying avocados or bananas or really anything outside of, bordering states. But for us, it's about the transparency. And again, we're not trying to hold farmers to some unreasonable standard. It's like, we just want to know them and know that they're feeding their families this stuff and having grown stuff my own. Like I know why, like if you want to survive, sometimes you have to farm in a way that how or that you can do. And so for us, it's, really, we haven't really, I wouldn't say we've turned farmers away unless they're just trying to grow something that we're not, we legitimately can't sell for them. We try really hard to make it work, but we also, we prioritize the farms that we've been working with because we're trying to make sure that we sell, we become a meaningful part of their business. And we got to keep that going and just grow to the point where we can start bringing on new farmers. Yep. We started working with food hubs in the region. So back in 2018, Aaron and I went down to Greenville, South Carolina, to Swamp Rabbit. If you've never been down there, it's a cool little spot owned by Mary and Jack. And they just built this it's like part food hub, part cafe, part grocery store, part daycare. I mean, it's just a cool little spot. But we were just went down there. We're like, hey, you guys do this whole food hub stuff too. We should share lists, the difference in what they have and when they have it is just different enough where it helps us extend seasons on things.
Yeah. Their seasons maybe a little bit earlier down there on some things than.
Yeah. So it's not just about the volume, challenge. It's I want to put peaches on the menu. Okay, well, cool. We're going to have them for 4 weeks, that's it. So just
now, the microclimates between the two states gives you enough kind of to make it worthwhile.
I think this week we're transitioning to North Carolina peaches for the first time. We've been using South Carolina peaches from Schuler for the past 4 or 5 weeks. Kind of gives chefs time to get stuff on the menu and actually work that in. Not everybody's printing
before they
menus.
have to change it. Before they got to change their menu again.
Not everyone's printing menus the night of service. Right. And so that relationship was really cool, and we haven't stopped making that trip every Wednesday since we made it back then. And then we also started working with Grow Food down in Charleston, and that's where it's like, okay, they have volume as well, and they're specifically a food hub and not into a bunch of other stuff. So that's been great. We share knowledge. That's why I was down in Charleston a month or so ago, just going down there and spending time with them. And it's like, man, you feel like you're in like a therapy session with people that can understand this unique environment in which you operate. And so that's been cool. But that helps us solve some of that in the wintertime when we have just kale and sweet potatoes. We can pull up kumquats from there, and it really gives the chefs access to a lot more stuff. So
cool. Where do you see this going, or where do you hope to see it going? Like what's, you mentioned the technology part of it and kind of not replacing the relationship between farmer, but just kind of making it easier. Where do you want to see Fresh List 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think, the physical, so we talk about Fresh List as the hub as it exists now. Like I don't have aspirations of us, having hubs in a lot of different cities. We may serve some different markets. Like if the pandemic wouldn't have happened, we're going to be in the Triangle. Like we have some chefs there, and there's a need there because there are some people that are kind of doing what we're doing, but not in the same way. We'll grow organically in whatever way that is sustainable and makes sense for the hub model. For the technology, that is about helping these other hubs that we've met and that we've come to know, and even hubs we haven't met yet, helping them giving them the tools and the ability to sustain themselves and not have to rely on grant funding or, just be this small little niche thing in a food system in a big city. Like I really think we can push the needle there and have a much bigger impact. And part of that, if the technology stuff doesn't work out, I think, I will still think about everything we've done and be content with the impact we've made. But again, I'm young and still very hungry and motivated where I want to, I'm not going to have generational wealth more than likely, but I want to have generational impact.
Yeah.
Because I think it's, that to me means more.
Yeah. Well, the work you're doing is important for sure. I mean, it's changed the game for restaurants in the Charlotte area to be able to get at this kind of accessibility, like we kind of touched on earlier. For people that are interested in connecting more with local stuff instead of just whatever's in the small section of the Harris Teeter, the local whatever they got going on there. What's your best advice for people either to reach out to you guys or to get access to this kind of product?
Yeah. So if they're a chef, obviously reach out, hello@freshlist.com, or we've got a little form on our website.
Yeah, I'll put the links on the show notes and stuff too.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to chefs, and we get a couple inbound inquiries a week, which is cool because even though I have a degree in marketing and really enjoy sales and marketing, we don't do any of that with chefs.
Yeah. You guys are not very pushy about it. You really have to call and say, hey, put me on your list.
Well, and that's part of that is because I think chefs would see through that. I mean, you guys get that enough.
Yeah. And you don't want to be a used car salesman. You want people to want the products.
Exactly. And so I think, that speaks to the reputation that we build, and doing business the right way has been the best marketing that I think we can do. On the consumer side, our delivery radius is still pretty small. It's it's in our neighborhood here, 28205, and then a couple other zip codes. We're expanding that little by little. And we've got some pickup locations. But yeah, if people go to freshlist.com, you can see whether or not we deliver, they can pick up. And beyond that, I think the markets are great places, for people, because it's so when you have the ability, when the farmers can talk to someone at a market stand about the difference between, is your stuff USDA certified organic? And I hate that question because it's just a symptom of this system that we've created that,
we're going to have to do a whole nother podcast about that. Cause I think I do. I think I need to do a panel discussion on that. Cause there's a lot of heated, what a mess.
Yeah. And the only way that I feel like I've successfully been able to communicate that with people is when you can have that dialogue. And so the markets are great for that. Again, you meet the farmer, you meet Sammy, you meet Mindy, you meet, Brent, Emma and Elliot, like all these farmers, you meet them in person, you go out of your way on a Saturday to go buy from them or support the restaurants that do. And that's, to me, the bigger thing. And on our website, we just kind of did a little relaunch of the website, but we have a link for a program that we call VeraFresh, where it was our way of saying, hey, we have all these restaurants that buy from us. Let's give consumers that information, not, dollar amounts they're buying or anything like that, but and with the technology, we have some abilities there. So the list is active based on any restaurant that's purchased from us within the past 30 days is up there. So if you get out of that cycle for whatever reason, it happens, your name will fall off. And that's not to try to gamify things for the restaurants, but it's consumers need good information, and there's so much bad information. I'm sure it's great. Any restaurant that makes some list, whatever it may be, eater top, 25, those are great because I use those in cities. But to be able, if you really want to support the people who are supporting farms and doing the extra, sometimes more expensive, sometimes, painful work of trying to buy locally, we want people to know that because, that's where you need to be spending your money.
Awesome. Anything else you want to cover with these folks about what's going on?
No, man, we could talk forever.
Yeah.
It's good just to
we'll do a follow-up because I do want to talk a little bit about some of the perceptions and stuff like that. You like you said, you got a degree in marketing. I think there's a conversation to be had about telling people what's going on and labeling and these certifications and all this other stuff and all the hocus pocus rigmarole red tape shit that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And it turns a lot of farmers off. And even if a farmer, I mean, I wasn't certified organic at Chef Jamie's farm, but we were growing like human scale farming, you know, and no chemicals, no anything. But like to get certification for a small farm, it's crazy. And I think we could go on for 2 hours talking about all that. I think we should.
If a farmer hasn't gone down that path and they ask us, you know, should I do that? We tell them no. Like it's not worth the extra, especially if they're trying to sell to restaurants, because end consumers at a market, there are, you know, plenty of consumers who want to see that.
Right.
Chefs, it's not like you're going to change a menu to say certified organic, you know, butter beans or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's, you know, it's about just trying to latch onto the things that are important in that. And it's hard to do it in a way where people will receive it, because there are people who have, you know, the signs and you go and protest GMOs and all this stuff and tell people things are bad, but people they don't respond to that. So we are going to start doing more, especially now that you know, COVID seems to be loosening up, knock on wood, wherever it is. Start doing more stuff in the community and kind of, you know, we did little farm dinner. Free Range Brewing does a community dinner series, and we did one of those a couple weeks ago. We're going to start doing more of our own dinners and really just trying to like bring people together and have chefs there and farmers. And, you know, that's what I think it's going to take to click with people.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thank you for your time and talking a little bit about Fresh List and what's going on with you. And I look forward to getting you on here again. We can talk about some more nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's always good to catch up. And sorry, you know, whenever you started your farm, I was so excited, you know, taking the Fresh List team out there. But, you know, it was one of those things, if I was just trying to be pragmatic and a jerk, I'd be like, this is really hard. Just, you know, I think regardless of whether or not it was going to be successful, it's important, like, to be able to do that. Like, how many chefs have actually farmed, you know, like Isaiah Allen, and I think he's at the Eddie Pub in Saxapal, I don't know however you say that. Yeah. He's one of those chefs that actually farms too. Yeah. That's how you really get the understanding, like, holy crap, this is hard. Right. And I'm sure that you came away from that experience with a much better appreciation for what. Well,
and that's really why I did it. For me, it was about, you know, I realized how important locality and healthy, nutritious food was to what we do. I believe it tastes better. I think nutritious food tastes better. Yeah. Physiologically, I can't prove it. I'm not a scientist, but like, I think that there's something there and I'd like to explore it. Yeah. But I wanted to learn more about it. And also, you know, I've gone to Sammy's farm. I've worked on his farm, you know, but I don't do it every day. Yeah. And I think that experience of start to finish, taking products from seed to the plate was something that I learned so much about the stuff I was growing and myself. Yeah. Yeah. You know, you learn a lot about yourself farming, man, like out there in the heat and grinding it out and all that. So, you know, and honestly, I think if the pandemic hadn't happened, we farmed for 2 years, like 2 seasons out there. You know, if I hadn't had to close my restaurants, we probably could have stayed. Yeah. But, you know, it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I remember I think we sold some stuff for y'all. You know, we were trying to get out there and hustle for y'all as well.
You did. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, it
bought us some time, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, it's what we do. But yeah, it was just cool just to see, you know, I'm fortunate that we have this little bit of property here in the neighborhood where it's what sparked the idea with Fresh List, like putting seeds in the ground and going through that whole process of, you know, starting when they're babies, and then they get out and the tomato plants are growing and growing, and then boom, you know, some blight hits them and you're like, you know, just crushed. Gonzo. And you can't just replace it. It's a whole other season away. And so everybody needs to farm to get that. And that's where
have a garden, grow a garden and just take a tomato plant from seed to fruit is like a process, man. And it's, you know, there's a lot to it. And the learning curve, I'll tell you, is steep for what these people are doing. I mean, I think I was on my farm for 3 years. The first year we were just getting it ready. You know, I was working full time at the restaurants too, you know, spending my weekends with Sammy, just learning, getting advice. And, you know, he was an amazing mentor as far as telling me what to do and what not to do. I mean, he even came out to our farm and walked before we bought it. It was like, hey, this would be a good place to grow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so the work that goes into it, man, I mean, grow a garden, like figure it out. It takes so much.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we all got disconnected from the food was, you know, I used to say like, oh, my grandparents farmed, but really everybody's grandparents farmed to some degree, or they had a garden, or, you know, and once you get removed from that, you just don't appreciate where stuff comes from. And you don't know, like some people, I remember when we first got chickens, one of our friends was like, but you don't have a rooster. Like, how do you get eggs? It's like, oh man.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, people don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. But
cool, man.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Good luck with everything you got going on with the expansion and growing and getting back on your feet over here. We're glad that that's happening, and let's chat again soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks.